Welcome back, everybody. This is the Lucent Truth, and we are the Lucent Troop, starting with our first guest on the show, and hopefully a regular occurring member in the future, Mr. Avidya, Travis Pearson. Please introduce yourself.
Well, hi everyone. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this today podcast. My name is Travis Pearson. I'm a local filmmaker here in Charleston, South Carolina. And I like all things that deal with film.
All right. Yeah, so we have a legitimate movie maker on the show. On the show. No, nobody else on the podcast can really say that. But next will be Carbon X.
Yeah.
That's it, Carbon. That's all you're gonna say.
I love it.
Next is
DJ
Dave Darko.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, baby, what's up, girl? Thank you for coming.
I'm sure you hear echo now, Orlando.
And I sure feel the energy.
Yeah, exactly.
So does the audience.
Right. And right below him is King 81, a.k.a. Arsenal Beats.
Yes. Be on the lookout too, man. Got that new album about to drop and whatnot and stuff. So stay tuned for that.
All right.
Dusty Beats and Warm Melodies, Volume 3.
We just got Dusty Beats and Warm Melodies. Is that what it's called? All right. All right. Yeah, because I've seen the first one. Okay.
Well, well, I'm sorry. No, Dusty Drums and Warm Melodies.
Dusty Drums.
Volume 3. Still trying to work on it. Yeah. You're still trying to figure out the name rise on it and all, but yeah, it's coming.
All right.
And also got a little bit of Sanford and Son samples and stuff like that to kind of play around. So yeah. Yes.
And lastly, I am your gracious host, G-Flux the Great, G-Flux the Grand, G-Flux the Magnificent. See, that's why I wanted to put that little sound thing in. Oh, man.
A.k.a. Fire Talk.
Shut up, Vegeta. All right, so guys, today we're going to do another free for all Friday, and the first thing I actually wanted to talk about is the trailer for the new Dune series. So we're gonna watch the trailer. We're gonna do a little trailer reaction, and then we're gonna just talk about it, and then we'll move on to the next subject. So is everybody ready? Can everybody hear the trailer? Let me play it a little bit.
It's breathtaking.
We gotta hear the trailer first. Yeah.
Can everybody hear that?
When you see sand here, imagine water. If you dive in, you can't reach the bottom.
You dive in.
Yes, it's called swimming.
So can y'all hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Avidya, you good?
Yeah.
Okay. Caleb, you good?
I don't hear it.
All right, you don't hear it? All right, let me. Let's see. Okay, play it.
I don't believe you.
Okay.
What about now? Okay, all right. I'll rewind it. All right, sorry now. Play. All right.
It's breathtaking.
When you see sand here, imagine water. If you dive in, you can't reach the bottom.
You dive in.
Yes, it's called swimming.
I don't believe you.
In the shadows of Arrakis lie many secrets. But the darkest of them all may remain. The end of House Atreides. Your father didn't believe in revenge. What if Paul Atreides were still alive?
Have you ever had a dream about your first ride?
Don't try to impress anyone. You're brave, we all know that. Be simple. Be direct. Nothing fancy.
I understand. Nothing fancy.
Paul Atreides. We gave them something to hope for.
That's not hope!
May thy knife chip and shatter.
All right, so that is the trailer for Dune Part 2, and I am most interested in wanting to know what Travis thinks about this as a filmmaker. Did you see the first movie, Travis?
Yes, I saw it. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Dennis's work. From his first film until now. I think his production has gotten even bigger, more elaborate. I just love the way he paces, the way he blocks his shots, and the choices he makes is really good.
What was his first film?
The first film I saw was a film short. Dang, you put me on the spot. I can't remember the name of it right now. It was give me a moment. It'll come.
No, you got. We can look it up real quick. That's the beauty of Google.
Yeah.
Let's see.
That's Google.
Because you know what, I had never heard of him until the Dune movie came out. Somebody told me he directed was the Blade Runner sequel, I believe. Oh, he did Arrival. Yeah, he did do Arrival. I did see that one.
Yeah.
But I watched the movie, but I never knew who the director was.
Yeah.
He did Sicario, Enemy, Prisoners. Let's see. Looks like his first thing he did in 1998 called August 32nd on Earth. I never even heard of that, but it might have been a short. Yeah. He did do another short called 120 Seconds to Get Elected. Happiness Bound. Yeah, so I guess my introduction to him was probably Arrival. I didn't know who I guess I just never looked up the director. But when I heard about the first Dune movie, I was excited because I've always been a big Dune fan. I read the book, I think, in high school. The first one. I haven't read any of the other ones. I just read the first one. And then I watched the movie, of course, when I was a kid. I think it was for my first introduction to Dune, the 80s one, the one that was directed by, what's his name, David Lynch? Is that his name?
David Lynch?
Yeah. And then my personal favorite is, even though with the bad production and the costumes, my personal favorite is the Sci-Fi Channel miniseries.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I thought the storyline was much clearer. I mean, when you go in with David Lynch, David Lynch is, he did Elephant Man and Eraserhead and stuff. Yeah. I mean, his style is a lot different.
And when you research that movie, there was a lot of conflict between him and I think in the production house because he has his own whatever, and I think they wanted something more traditional. And I think it's one of his least favorite movies that he directed. And also, I think the problem with that movie, and also really the first Dune movie that came here, directed by Dennis, is that first book is very dense. And I think to do it justice, I don't think he can do it like in 2 hours. And that's why I like the miniseries. It gave enough time for the characters to kind of be fleshed out. Some of the backstory stuff and some of the what do you call it? The intrigue and the mystery and what's it called? I think it is called intrigue when you have people politicking, kind of like Game of Thrones. What's the word I'm looking for? Where they're doing all their political intrigue. I thought the miniseries did that, portrayed that much better. Even though I liked Denis Villeneuve's first movie here, I just thought it left out too much. And I would have preferred a miniseries, but I am excited about the second one.
I agree. I mean, I read the first book. I didn't read all of them. I don't know if that Trailers eventually turns into a big worm in the story. So
that's
what? Oh man.
Yeah, it kind of loses me. That's where
it's later. I mean, it's not in this.
It's not in this. Yeah.
But it starts getting crazy.
Matter of fact, I think his son turns into.
Yeah, you're right. The guy who wrote the book, him and his wife, yeah, I don't know what they were thinking.
Yeah, yeah, that's where a lot started losing me, and then they started cloning Paul and a whole bunch of stuff like that, and I was like, all right, because
Yeah.
one of the things about Dune is I don't know if it comes across as well in the movies, even though they kind of hinted at it in the latest rendition, is that it's actually a Dune is actually a in many ways a critique of kind of like the white savior. Because one of the criticisms of the Dune movie, the recent one that came out, and Dune itself, is that it has a white savior complex. But in the books, it's warned that okay, this is what happens when these types of things happen. When you exalt someone to like godhood or some kind of grandiose leader or whatever, um, things don't always work out like how you think they work out. You know what I'm saying? There's negatives that come with the pros when you have like an outsider come in and then he's different, so he can kind of rally people because he's different. And a good example of that would be Native Americans. Native Americans, I mean, they're practically wiped out, and some of them did side. What was it called? The seven civilized tribes or whatever. Side with the outsiders. So it's not always like how they try to depict it in movies. Like you got this foreigner who comes, and because he's a foreigner, he's better at everybody else and everything else, and he kind of saves the day or uses the group as a way to get back at the other group or his original group. So I always thought that was interesting about Dune and how sometimes it's misread as a white savior complex story, which at a very fundamental level it kind of is, but on a deeper level it isn't. It's actually a critique of it. But to sell it, they have to sell it like that to get people to watch it, because if they get too political, then people are gonna start crying about wokeism and stuff like that. So I always thought that was interesting about Dune. But please, everyone else chime in. I've been talking enough.
I'm excited about it coming out.
Yeah.
I saw the first one, and I actually bought the first one on Prime. And I always liked the first Dune, and I watched it religiously. And I was like, usually when they go to remake something, they make it worse. They try to include a whole bunch of modern stuff in there, and they just destroy it. And like, eh. But this is one time where I felt I watched a movie that was remade, and at least visually, it was improved. And I even like they even did the myth a little better with the people whispering, such, and them not believing it, that he was the Kshizat Shadrach, So I'm pretty excited about it coming out, and I might even go to the theater and see this one.
Yeah, I'll definitely go check it out. But I think this is more up my alley right now. As far as sci-fi, I was trying to stay in there with Star Wars guys. I was, but too much irredeemable actions in that franchise has been made for me. So I'm pretty much done with Star Wars. I'm more of a Dune guy, Dune guy now. Yeah. But please, guys, if you have anything else to say about Dune, please say it, because we're gonna move on to the next subject.
I think he made a right balance, and just to piggyback what you're saying about Star Wars, when you're dealing with something like sci-fi and the spirituality aspect of it, like in Star Wars, that they had the Force, but they really didn't use it as much as they could have to have that balance. Like the first installments of Star Wars, like when they introduced Yoda and the Force, it was like, wow, this is some mystical.
Yeah.
With the sci-fi, that was great. For what George Lucas was trying to do, but reading Joseph Campbell, I just think with Dune and as well as the Matrix, was able to have that balance too. Because you're gonna have to, if you're gonna do with technology, you're gonna have to have the organic type of, and have that that conflict between the two, and how that war wages. But yeah, the new installments of Star Wars, they didn't have that. They should have pushed more of the Force spirituality differently, take a page out of the Matrix, and I think it would have fared a lot better. That's just my opinion, because I felt like it was missing something, and it was just focus too much on special effects and the CG.
Yeah.
And I understand that the story was about the story about Luke Skywalker, Luke Skywalker coming out of nowhere, and finding this power that exists in everything. And I think they should have done that more. They tried to do it in the Last Jedi, episode, but
yeah, in the
it
third
was too
movie.
late.
Yeah, in the third movie, it makes no sense. And how are you going to do that in basically the last act? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And to kind of piggyback off of what you're saying, because we touched on this in previous podcasts. I think the poignant word that you used was balance. And I think when you look at, and I'm going to get some flack for this, but I've been already saying this, so I'm going to say it anyway. When you look at the trilogy, the last sequel trilogy, it's unbalanced because feminists have taken over Star Wars, and I mean that literally. Like when you look at the original trilogy, the OG trilogy, the one that the Star Wars that started off in 1979, and to kind of give women more credit, because I've been kind of bashing feminists, particularly feminist women lately, to give them more credit. The reason why that original trilogy worked is because George Lucas's wife at the time, I believe her name was Martha. I can't remember, but she was an editor. And a lot of people say she was the heart of Star Wars, because she would tell George, she was like, "Look, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work. You need to add this." So as George Lucas, he had the framework, right? He had this larger framework that men usually are good at. They're good at the larger. They can see the larger structure, and women are usually better at details. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying this is an absolute. I'm just saying that generally, when they study the difference between men and women, you know what I'm saying? That's what you see. And I think that's why the first trilogy worked so well, because it was, and if you want to start getting metaphysical and spiritual, it was a perfect balance between feminine and masculine energy. And you see it on the screen. Whereas, and even the prequels, the reason why they probably weren't as good as the other ones, because it was, I think they had, he had divorced that woman. They weren't together anymore, so she wasn't involved. When you watch the prequels, and it's like, okay, when George is by himself, he can't even get proper performances out of good actors like Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor and Sam Jackson. You know what I'm saying? Whereas I think if Martha was there, and she even criticized the prequels and the trilogy sequels. She came in a book. She criticized both of them, and she really criticized the sequel trilogy. She was like, "This is garbage. This isn't Luke. This isn't Star Wars." But I'm not going to go on Star Wars, man. I was going to say I just wanted to. I think the important word is balance. You need a good balance, especially if you want a general audience. Right now, I think what they're doing is they're alienating their male audience. You know what I'm saying? By pushing, these Mary Sues, who men can't relate to. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I can't relate to Rey. And they tried to do the whole thing where she's like, on Jakku, and she lives on a desert, but there was no reason why she lived. I mean, even when you find out the reason, it was stupid. It wasn't even well thought out. You know what I'm saying? And you just didn't believe it. And also, it wasn't different. It was like all she is a female simulacrum of Luke. At least make her different. Yeah. Make her something. Give her a different struggle, or similar but different. Like a different flavor of the struggle. You know what I'm saying? So that was my issue. It's like, come on, man. I think the important thing there is balance.
Okay. Yeah, I've been hearing that criticism, especially with Marvel stuff that people are complaining about. So, okay, yeah. I see.
All right. So, anybody, Caleb, did you want to say anything about the Dune movie?
I don't have anything to say about it.
Did you see the first one? Yeah, you saw the first one. Me and my dad watched it. Yeah.
I don't really remember it, to be honest with you.
Okay, all right.
I didn't hear it. What did Caleb say?
He said he doesn't really remember it. All right, okay. All right, we'll move on.
Blasphemous.
We'll move on to the next subject, which is Cleopatra. I got something up, but I want to pull up some actual visuals. Was it Netflix, right?
Wait, didn't they make her white or something? How do people get mad about that?
No, they made her black. We'll talk about it. Cleopatra.
Here we go. Now, let's see who gets loud now. Let's see who gets loud now.
Let me just Google it, because Netflix.
Yeah, mute your mic.
What's it called? It's called Netflix. There's a Cleopatra. Oh, there we go. It's a documentary, right? Let's see. Let me take out actress. I just want to get some visuals up. as we talk about it here. Computer's running a little slow because I got something. All right, here we go. All right. Basically, guys, we want to talk about the controversy over them casting what they are calling a black woman as Cleopatra. Since this is your topic, Avidya, or do you want me to call you Avidya, or want me to call you by your real name? I wasn't sure.
Mama called him Clay. I'm gonna call him Clay.
No, Muhammad Ali. He was telling
Mama called him Clay. I'm gonna call him Clay.
But I'm gonna let you kind of start off, Avidya.
Speak, master. Speak.
You're muted. Hey, Avidya, you're muted.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Yeah, basically, the controversy right now is that Jada Pickett's documentary about Cleopatra is portrayed being cast and portrayed by a black woman, and citizens of Egypt are, they actually one person actually filed a lawsuit against it, and a lot of people are upset, up in arms about the whole, and they felt that Cleopatra was not black.
Well, let me ask you, Travis. Do you think, or have you done any research on this? I mean, what's your knowledge on it as far as what so-called race she was?
Well, you gotta now. There's a difference between. Okay, yeah, I have done some research. Basically, there's a difference between Kemet and Egypt. Once Alexander the Great, the so-called Great, conquered Egypt, she's the bloodline from that.
Yeah.
Which is Ptolemaic. Era, which I don't consider her. I don't consider her Kemetic like the ancient Egyptians. I see her more as a colonizer.
Yeah, I mean that's basically what. That's what they were.
And, the Egyptians, the so-called Egyptians today are, once it was taken over by the Romans and the Greek,
and Persians,
the Romans and the Persian, as well as the Arabian Arabs who came and invaded Egypt, who live there now today. They tout that, hey, Egypt, there's this constant push to try to take Egypt out of Africa, Kemet out of Africa, because it's called Kemet. It's not called Egypt. So, and there's a reason why. And a great book that you should read is Sheikh Diab's book.
Oh, we read that already. Come on, man. I'm joking. Please go ahead and speak.
It's a great read, and I think it is. And I can't think of his name right now, but he's an Egyptologist who really spoke on that and showed the similarities between the so-called sub-Saharan and lower upper Egypt and stuff like that. But yeah, my personal opinion, I don't consider her, I don't consider her Egyptian. I consider her more of a colonizer, and who occupied, Kemet and ruled, but them claiming that she's ancient, the ancient Egyptians, because we're really conflating two arguments, because a lot of black folks are arguing that the ancient Egyptians are black, which they are, and the other side are upset that are pushing their argument that Cleopatra is Greek. No,
white,
she's a Greek, an Egyptian, which they're right to a point, because I don't know if she's biracial. I mean, it could be, but for all I my opinion is that she's a colonizer who just came and she's from that line. She's not from the Amana period,
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
King Tut.
I mean,
Queen.
she was literally the last pharaoh to rule Egypt. She was.
Yeah,
So she's not
yeah.
even.
'Cause
Yeah. Go ahead.
oh no, I was just agreeing with you. Yeah, that's when Egypt fell. I mean, it
Yeah.
was a done deal.
But that's the thing,
After
though.
that.
That's the thing I think people don't understand about Egypt. Egypt lasted for 5,000 years. I mean, just let's put it in perspective. America's only been around for 200. That's 5,000 years of history. It had 3 dark ages. It went through 3 dark ages. So it had 3
Yeah.
ages of light, at least 4. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
There was a point in Egypt where they forgot how to do hieroglyphics. That's how old it is.
Yeah.
So this idea that that it's almost like, okay, we know that this country is predominantly white, right? And it's like it's like all that history being lost, right? And then somehow, for whatever reason, Barack Obama's grave is preserved, and they dig up Barack Obama's grave, right? And they say, oh well, the Americans must have all been black. You know what I'm saying? That's how ridiculous it is. Well, you got 5,000 years of history. Do you know how much admixture can happen in that time, especially when you're being conquered by multiple kingdoms? So this
Yeah,
idea that so when I saw her, I was like, you know what? Because I looked it up. I was like, I don't think they've ever. I think it's right here. It's on the Wikipedia and I know it's Wikipedia, but you can find all the sources on Wikipedia at the bottom of the of the thing, DNA of Cleopatra. It was on the Wikipedia. Where is it at? I should have had it up. Now I can't find it. When I want the Wikipedia, I can't. It doesn't come up automatically. Oh, here we go. It's actually the first one. If you go to the very bottom, right? Because I read through this whole thing, just kind of like, what's the big deal, right? Listen to this. To date, no confirmed tomb of any Ptolemaic ruler has been found. Consequently, genetic testing on Ptolemaic remains is impossible. Basically saying, the only reason why they're saying that she's white is because she does have Greek. We know that she's of the Ptolemaic line, right? But here's the thing. Let's just use basic human sense. Or common sense, when a kingdom colonizes another kingdom, usually the way they legitimize their rule is marrying into whatever that line, that kingdom's or that royalty's line is. So they'll take their daughters or something like that. So when I see this lady, this Adele lady, who's playing, she's mixed race. She's half black. She's half white, but she looks Arabic. She looks like she's Middle Eastern. So is she? Let's take it by American standards, right? By American standards, like if Cleopatra was mixed, by American standards, she would be black. By American standards, also all the white people in America are complaining. Now I can see why some people in Egypt might complain, right? I can see why some Greeks might complain. You know what I'm saying? But white Americans, y'all set the standard. One drop rule. There's no tomb has been found of this woman. So just so we know of basic, humans, like how they operate. Anytime you have a group of people who live close to one another, and if they're not trying to genocide each other, there's going to be admixture. So there's a good chance that even if she wasn't like, sub-Saharan, super dark-skinned black, by American standards, she's probably black. Yeah, so that was my first contention with the whole thing. It was like, it's not like they picked, someone who lives in like, the Congo to be, they picked a mixed race woman. They were trying to, this is probably more likely she's probably like a brown skinned woman. You know what I'm saying? That's my first contention with this whole thing and why I think it's ridiculous. Was that no one has any real evidence of the claim other than the fact that she was, do we know for a fact that she was from a Ptolemaic line, but that doesn't mean that she was white, like pure, like just like white skin, rosy cheeks, blonde hair, red hair, blue eyes, or whatever. Now I think there's some old depictions of her with red hair, but those are made like 1,000 years after she was alive or whatever, But here's my other problem with this whole thing. This is black women. This is them with their fantasies. Oh, Cleopatra was black, and she had all this power, and she was with these white men. This is their fantasy. This is their fantasy. You know what I'm saying? So it's almost like really black men should stay out of it, in my opinion. Not our fight. Not our fight. This is black women. They want to push their families, their fantasies, in the larger media or whatever, and white men and white women are saying we ain't having it. And I don't. So up to the point where I'm like, hey, look, let them fight that out. Let them fight that out. But I said enough. I'll let somebody else chime in.
Man.
No, I don't think there's too much more we could say. You guys already said most of what I think common people think about
jump
it.
on that landmine.
Yeah.
Y'all scared? Y'all scared to talk about? Everybody else talking about it. Why can't we talk about it?
I mean, it's an old conversation. It's interesting that they put it new and now it's on Netflix. But goodness gracious, like when we were talking to Travis, man, Ivan Van Sertima, all these guys, they came before Columbus. All this, man. You go to a Sonetta channel, man, they've been talking about this. Oh
Yeah,
God,
but
decades.
But let's be honest though. Like I agree with some of the Afrocentric stuff, but some of it's been proven not to be true. So if there,
notice the people I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, notice the people they are pretty fair when they talk about the research. Not the hokey pokey ones, but people like Brother Jabari, for example, would agree.
Yeah,
it's not a new topic.
Jabari would say, Cleopatra was probably more closer to the fair skin than she was dark skin. I think he would agree with that because he understands the history. He understands. Okay, look, this is the ending of Egypt. This is the ending of their light. This is when they've already been conquered. When they've already been ruled over by outside influences. You know what I'm saying? This is literally the apocalypse of Egyptian civilization. You know what I'm saying? So I agree. Go ahead, Travis.
No, I think Dr. Sheikh Avidya he put forth a great argument, and he debated with the Egyptologists of that day, and they couldn't dispute what the evidence that he brought. He was well equipped. Mm-hmm. He brought from the Greek scholars, the Greek scholars of the time who wrote about the Kemetic people and showed that these people were black. They used the melana. The word melanin comes from the Greek word.
Yeah.
The Greek word melanin comes from melana. But you definitely need to read the book. It's not some how people try to make it into some. He was well studied. It's not like.
Yeah, I hear you.
What you said, Sonetta. I mean, it's nothing wrong with Sonetta and stuff like that, but no, you really need to read the evidence that he put forth, and they couldn't dispute it. All they could do is just they basically just dismissed it.
Yeah. It's sort of like it's I'm white and I say so, basically.
Yeah, exactly that. So,
Dr. Ben too. Don't forget him.
Oh yeah, and Dr. Ben. I mean, the whole trying to take Kemet out of Egypt. I mean, out of Africa was, all that was introduced in the 1700s because the slave trade.
Yeah.
They could not allow that type of information to be out there, and so they had to make it a concerted effort to make these people Middle Eastern or white. I mean, if you look at their ID, it says white.
Well, I think I think though that, and this is where I think black people get tripped up. Not anyone on this panel, but just in general, particularly black women, who probably haven't studied. I'm talking about on average. Some black women who are very well studied, very well versed on this, like some of the scholars you guys have been mentioning, is that when they hear Egypt, they automatically think black. And they don't understand like this is 5,000 years of history, and I think. All the scholarship that I've seen, even from white scholarship, has shown. Look, the further you go back, the blacker they get. Yeah. I mean, I saw this one document. I should have found it and I pulled it up, but it was they were testing the DNA of a pharaoh. I think from like around the time the pyramids were being made. Because a lot of people don't realize that the height of Egypt was in the beginning, at its near its start, and then it progressively declined. So all the great monuments that were being built, that was built in the early years, the early dynasties, right? And it
Yeah.
declined, right? But they were doing some DNA on a pharaoh or something. I think it lived around that time. Man, I should have found it. But and he had this theory that Egyptians came from the Mediterranean or Europe or something like that. So when they when they got the test back and they said obviously he's sub-Saharan African, you should see it in his face. It was almost like it's this grand disappointment on his face. It was like people are trying to tell you that for years.
Yeah.
All the other evidence shows that. You know what I'm saying? That real ancient Egyptians, the one that started the civilization, were black people. You know what I'm saying? That came out of what's it called? Tasseti in Nubia, and even
Yeah.
from the east, when before the Sahara turned into a desert. I think Robert Bauval talks about that a lot. These were black Africans. You know what I'm saying? And like Brother Jabari says, what you see in Egypt is the flowering of Africa. It's the pinnacle of African civilization. So I think that's another reason why they want to take the Kemet part, which means black. Some people say it's black soil. Some people think it's black skin. But they want to take that part of it. But my problem though is those types of conversations the type of conversations we're having isn't being had in the larger media. It's just, oh, Cleopatra was white because she has Greek ancestry, and it's almost like, okay, checkmate. But no, it's much more nuanced than that. It's way more nuanced than that. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad you brought that up, Travis, about about basically a colonizer.
Yeah. It's just language. And I understand how language, the whole, like language like sub-Sahara African, these made up term. I mean, all words are made up, but just to try to, we're like Middle East, words like Middle East to try to say it's separate. I mean, we're in South Carolina. We're considered Middle East of America. So it's just language like that is just so deceptive, and I'm just trying to figure out why is this concerted effort to try. I mean, hopefully I'll be working with Solomon Sose. He's a Mali director. A director out of Mali, and hopefully be working together soon. And we got Mansa Musa. We got other great empires, in West Africa and East Africa, and what you were saying, Nubia and Kush and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, the language is pretty much, similar to what they spoke, the customs, the traditions. Um, uh, I don't know. The actress, she looks. I mean, from her phenotype, she would look like she was from from East Africa.
Yeah.
Either Ethiopia or Kenyan.
She's British. She's British, but clearly she's.
Yeah.
I think I read that she's half black, and I think her dad was black and her mother was white. And I'm like, this has always been my theory. I don't know if DNA proves this, but I personally think Middle Easterns or not all Middle Easterns, because some would argue that Persians and which is modern day Iraq are more on the Caucasian side. But I think there's a large part of Middle East where they are a admixture of white and black that just goes back a long, long way, and they just became their own people because they have that look. When I see a lot of mixed race people around here that are half black, half white, they could, if certain things, maybe like the shape of their nose, maybe, or something like that, or the eye ridge or something, but they be looking Middle Eastern sometimes, So this idea that race is this fixed thing. I mean, it's a political thing anyway.
I mean, when you're talking about when you say we keep bringing up Persia, I keep on thinking Zuriat. Zuriat, the black musician who taught the Europeans how to bathe and stuff like that. I would like to see a movie about him.
Yeah.
You know, they try to make him, you know, some other thing other than and you know, they need to make a movie about him, which would be awesome. You know, I don't know if you're familiar about him, but Zuriab, I mean, his contribution to the world is phenomenal. You know, but you know,
Wasn't he the one who
hopefully,
introduced the whole 3-course meal thing
yes,
too? Yeah.
yeah. I mean, fashion, you know, grooming, you know, like toothpaste. I mean, making the Russian. I mean, they
I
didn't
think it is a
have
I
this
think it
stuff.
is a misnomer. I don't think he taught Europeans how to bathe. There was like a particular type of thing that he
Well,
did.
no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Take that back. I'm sorry. That's a little. Thank you for correcting me.
Yeah, they
You
were
teach them how
bathing.
to.
They were bathing in
And
Europe.
you taught them that grooming, at least, you know, about grooming themselves. You know, for the women to shave,
Yeah.
and you know, the hairs of their bodies, you know, hairstyles and stuff, as well as to bathe twice a day.
Yeah, it was
About
a
cleaning.
it was
Like
a
that.
particular type of
Um,
bathing custom I think that he brought to. Yeah.
correct. So
Yeah.
yeah, but his influence is huge. I think that
Yeah.
people need to. I would love to see a movie like that about him.
I don't waste my breath. I think that until black people start to do those things and stop waiting around for white people to tell our stories, or stop trying to inject ourselves into their tales, like Finn,
Well,
Finn from Star Wars. Yeah,
well,
Poor Finn. Poor.
well, I can speak on that as a filmmaker. It's hard for. I mean, a lot of companies, a lot of studios will not production houses. I mean, the whole industry has changed. That's the reason why you see the writers of, you know, friends of mine are striking right now, because the money and the way everything has changed. The whole structure, how business has been done in the industry has changed. They will not fund, like you know, I've produced, you know, scripts that they've sat with me and spoke to me and they humored me, but they won't put money behind it because they felt like there's not an audience for it. Even though black, you know, the black audience, we are huge. So that's the reason why they'll do the tempo, like, you know, like the Peter Pan, and they're introduced to make black characters into white, you know, basically hand me downs.
Yeah.
You know,
Or like the
you know, the
Black Captain
clothes that my
America.
brother used to wear,
Yeah.
I'm now wearing. And you know, the fight and was the struggle right now that myself and other filmmakers that I know across the country have to try to tell our stories. It's really hard to get the money, the resources to adequately tell those stories. They'll give us peanuts, and the movie, you know, the movie will be out there, and they'll use us as the test sample, you know, to make a bad version of it to see how well it does. And if it does really well or does pretty well, then they'll get a white director and do their version of it.
I see what you're saying.
You know, that's the strategy that we've noticed that's been going on. So
Well, let me ask you
you
this:
know, it's
like,
black.
if like black people, we make up, was it 14%, around that percentage of the population, right, in the United States. Now, granted, when you start talking about the global market, I'm pretty sure when you talk about black people in general, maybe Africa maybe increases that percentage, you know, but there, you know, there's still some challenges in Africa as far as infrastructure. So I don't think the box office coming out of Africa is going to be, say, as big as something like China, right? Even though the African population is probably one of the youngest on the earth, and they're growing. But I guess the question I want to ask is, and I think it's a fair question because we have to start realizing, look, we're a minority in this country, and it's not like our numbers are going to increase. In fact, our numbers are decreasing. So to your point about when they show like this mixed race woman as Cleopatra, or they got a brown skinned person playing Peter Pan, um, admixture is becoming more and more of a normal thing. In fact, this is just my opinion, but I think what we know as today as black, we're going to become like the Native Americans. There's not going to be that many of like what we would consider black people I think black people are going to morph into people of color and kind of like mixed race people. And there's a number of
Well,
reasons. I won't go into all of them, but yeah, go
gotta
ahead.
make it. Well, when you say black people, are you talking about African Americans, or are you talking about Africans in the diaspora?
African Americans, not necessarily.
Okay, because we're
Yeah,
okay, okay.
yeah,
Because
because
if you're talking, because like here in Charleston, we have a huge Nigerian population, and I mean, yeah. To your point, yeah. There's money to be had, and when it comes to black films and black stories, I mean, there's some film houses in Nigeria that are doing that, broker some deals or have deals with Netflix. So if you go to Netflix, you'll see a whole bunch of Nigerian films, Nollywood films out there on that platform. Um, you see a lot of
but to
Indian
be
films
fair
like
though,
RRR. It's huge. I mean, that's an Indian film, but
but
I mean,
you're kind of proving my point though, because when you look at India, yeah, a billion people. You look at Nigeria, they got a growing population. When you look at African Americans, we're dying. Like our community is dying. So it's almost like, like look at what was that one thing they did with the Woman King?
are we talking population or are we talking about stories? The stories.
What I'm saying
If you're
is,
talking about,
okay, what I'm saying is that if the population needs to be there to pay for it, it's kind of like a boxing match, right? Even if you're a good boxer, but you don't have a name, like then you can't bring in the audience. You see what I'm saying? Is what I'm saying. But we're on a decline. I don't. I guess the larger point I'm trying to make is we don't have the community unity to push for that anymore. At one time we did. And matter of fact, there's some evidence, right, that we saved Hollywood with the blaxploitation movies back in the 70s when these studios and stuff were about to die.
yeah.
Because we were forced together in these cities. Now they're spreading us all out through gentrification. Then you got the whole assimilation thing, and I think it's going to be harder as we go further in the future, unless there's some resurgence in African American culture and we start making families again. We're on a decline. Yeah.
Well, I see what you're saying, but I kind of disagree. Well, I don't. I mean, I'm thinking that the point I'm making is that I see what you're saying. I feel that black stories are universal stories, and I'm not. I make black stories, but I don't think I just make them just for black folks. I make them for everyone. I want everyone to appreciate our story, and yeah. But if you speaking about like resources, trying to get economics to get research, to get funding for a project from black folks, and you talking about our numbers being dwindling in that aspect, then yeah, I kind of see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, because imagine you're not Kathleen Kennedy, because she's inept and incompetent. Well, imagine you're a competent, president of Lucasfilm or some studio head or whatever, right? And you're seeing all the pushback, on wokeism. You know what I'm saying? And some of it I think is justified. Some of it I think is ridiculous. It's just some of it I think is rooted in racism, but some of it I think is justified, right? You're seeing the pushback on it, right? You're seeing the numbers for something like the Woman King. And the only thing you really have a metric on is maybe the Black Panther movie that came out, and perhaps the second one. I don't think the second one did as well as the first one, but even perhaps the second one. If I were them, I would also focus on something like Africa or India rather than African Americans, because it's a dead community. It's dying.
It's money.
Yeah, it's money. They want the cash, so they're going to go where the audience is. Yeah, and I think, and I said this on Twitter today. I was like, African Americans have done a terrible job with gatekeeping our history and our legacy. We've done a terrible job. And I think we're seeing that play out in modernity, in modern times. And it's going to be harder and harder to sell. Who was it? Was it one of the Tate brothers? They were talking about, what was his name? What's his name? Robert Smalls?
Robert Smalls? Yeah.
Yeah. They were like, why don't they make a movie of this guy? He was incredible. He was like a real, legitimate, real life hero. And I think that's why. Yeah.
Well, I was speaking, I was speaking to Michael Moore, Michael, not that Michael Moore, the one with the International African American Museum, because he's a descendant. And he asked me, he said, Travis, do you know who Charles Burnett is? I said, yeah, of course I know who Charles Burnett. Killer of Sheep and stuff, and To Sleep with Anger, one of my favorite films. But he was like, yeah, because he's supposed to be making a movie about my because he's a descendant from Robert Smalls. So I know Charles Burnett was supposed to be making the movie on him, on Robert Smalls. Hopefully it'll come to fruition. I also know that Michael is trying to do it himself too, because he's also running for Congress, which is another side of it.
And another point, Travis, another thing I think that illustrates what I'm talking about more is look at who they're casting now in African American roles. They're casting Africans in African Brits and stuff like that. They had that African Brit lady playing Harriet Tubman.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
go ahead.
Well, and the reason, that whole argument with, which is true, they are taking a lot of jobs.
We don't
from,
safeguard, we don't gatekeep our history, and I see this even with African American actors, right? Like that, what's that guy who's in trouble now? Even though I don't think he did anything. Kang, what's his name?
From
he has a cool sounding name. Yeah, Jonathan Majors, right? I'm watching now. I've heard good things about him, but everything I've seen him in, I'm just not impressed. I'm not impressed. Where's this generation's Denzel Washington? Where's this generation's
I thought he did a
Lawrence
great job.
Fishburne? He's mediocre. Let's be honest. This guy's mediocre.
Yeah, I mean, he still needs growth. I mean, did you see the Last Man in San Francisco?
No, I haven't. I haven't seen it. Now, Uncle Dave did say he did good in Creed too. So it's just every time I've seen him in something, I've only seen him in maybe like 3 things. I'm just not impressed. I'm not impressed.
Yeah.
I think we've lost. We don't hand down what we've created. Who is studying under Denzel Washington? Who's studying under Lawrence Fishburne? These
great.
apprentices.
That's the first question you need to ask.
Go ahead, Caleb, since you haven't said anything.
Are they willing to take apprentices? That's the first question you need to ask.
I don't know. That's a good question, though.
Exactly. If they're not willing to train nobody, then nobody's about to get trained.
But that's an institutional question too, though. That's an institutional. Where are the black institutions to do that? Now there might be some. I don't know. And if they are, is Denzel Washington or Lawrence Fishburne or what's his name? James Earl Jones or Morgan Freeman? Are they a part of these institutions, these black institutions? So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Trey.
But they're actors. They're not. I mean, they're actors. They produce sometimes. Due to a project. But that's up to directors. That's solely up to directors to preserve that and to curate that, what you're talking about. And we're trying to do that. Right now it's. I mean, I appreciate. I don't know. Right now I'm a little torn with the. I agree with you that there's no solidarity. I mean, when it comes to black, because right now everything is about everyone else except for black liberation and black ownership. Our black stories for the most part, and everything is about the Afro. What do you call it? The Afro. Surrealism, style that
like Atlanta.
Yeah, and I mean, which I appreciate. I loved Atlanta. I thought it was phenomenal. I think a great show. I just think, the last episode just left. I didn't understand what they were trying to say, with that, and but. I don't know. It's just like they're the younger crowd, like the Ava DuVernays and
oh God,
what's his name?
Ava DuVernay.
Yeah. She was supposed to be my publicist.
Oh, for real? There's look. And I've noticed a decline, not just in the music, but also in African American cinema, and it might be right. Maybe they're just not funding the right type of people. I think you're probably right about that, Travis. But also, I think they're not. I don't think it's just a racism. I think it's a money thing. You know, if your community's in decline, they're not going to put a whole bunch of money behind something. You know, to
Yeah, that might fail.
yeah, because there's just not enough eyes that's going to go see. I don't know any white people that went to go see uh Woman King. I didn't go see Woman King. And
No,
but
no,
to
a
be
lot of
fair, that
people.
might
I
have been the
didn't. I
wrong
didn't
type of
go.
movie to push. You know.
Yeah, but that was again. That's not. That was not black. That was not black people. That was not a black producer. The person who wrote it was. I mean, well, later on, it was a black co-writer, but that was a white project.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
If you get a chance, a friend of mine, did you see Dear Mama on Hulu?
Dear Mama, is that the Tupac thing?
I heard
Yeah,
about it.
yeah.
No, I haven't seen it, but to be fair, maybe I'm being hypocritical here. It's not my interest.
Oh, gotcha, gotcha. I mean,
Yeah.
I think you would. I think you would appreciate it. I think you really would appreciate it because um,
Is it a documentary?
well, it is a documentary,
Okay.
and it's told by the. It's more about Fani Shakur, a friend of mine, Jamal Joseph. He was. I brought. I had him do a video chat about when. What was it? That movie about the Black Panther and the traitor.
Oh,
Mm,
I know you're talking about.
something
Yeah,
in the snitch or something.
Yeah, yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I had him speak a couple of years back, and I worked with but he's an executive producer on this project,
Oh,
and
okay.
he was part of the Black Panther 21.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
as myself being a child of of the Panther movement, I think what you're speaking of, the decline and trying to curate and stuff like that. I think this is a really good effort, and to see how a young Tupac, because he got all the lessons I got, and his mom was part of the was a high up official in the
Hmm.
movement, but he just lost himself.
Yeah, it's
He
interesting
started,
though. When you look at footage of
but
Tupac.
he
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
what
Continue thought.
no, no, my point being is that everything you're speaking of, he's like an archetype of how that solidarity, and how black people would stick together, and how we no longer sticking together because their relationship was shown, which is this shown in this documentary, basically illustrates what you're speaking of,
Hmm.
like
Okay. I'm gonna check
coming
it
from the
out.
movement,
Yeah.
everyone sticking together, and then a disconnect. Well, his mom started because the movement just disbanded, and FBI and the COINTELPRO and stuff like that, and no one was supporting one another. Um, Luckily, I was cool. My mom didn't do drugs, or my dad was in the movement.
Yeah.
But like I said, I mean, everything you're speaking of, I think that documentary really illustrates the point you're trying to make, and how we can, I mean, learn from these lessons.
I think it's over,
Because
dude. I think it's over. I, I do. I think there's too much working against us. There's too much working against us, and I think after integration, I'm not saying integration was bad or good. It's just what it was. It was a solution they tried to fix the issue, but I think integration killed the black community. It's given us too much freedom to the point where H. Rap Brown said it perfectly in one of his speeches. He was like, there, if the black community is going to survive, we have to kill this idea of individualism. He was like, you can't say, because back then they had that saying, I'm gonna do my thing, you're gonna do your thing. He was like, we can't do that no more, and that's what every, all black people do that. We're only black when, when some tragedy happens, like George Floyd gets killed, or when it's time to vote for freaking Democrats. That's the only time we're black. When it's time to do real stuff, like how you trying to make a movie. I bet if you try to get 100 black people together to give you $1,000, and if I had $1,000, I don't got it. I don't got it. But if I had it, I would give it to you.
Me neither.
Yeah, you'd be hard pressed. You'd be hard pressed because, and it's not just the fact that I don't think black people want to help out other black people. One, all black people don't got that kind of money. That's that,
Yeah, they
and
don't have.
then yeah,
You're absolutely right. I mean, I remember back in '95, I was supposed. I met with you know, with Chris Rock's brother, not Chris Rock, Chris Tucker's brother, and because I was going to try to get get this film that I was working on at the time made, and I approached one black dentist because they're the ones who pretty much had that type of disposable income to be able to fund a film back in the '90s. I met with his brother, and his brother was like, "Yo, man, yeah, I think he'd be interested in being in the film." Met with him, he would be interested in doing the project. But anyway, to speak what you're saying, that the guy who was going to invest in the project fell through, so I didn't have the money,
yeah.
so I couldn't make the project. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, that we don't, black folks don't have that type of disposable income, and we have to go with our hat in hand asking other people to fund these projects, and hope from the kindness of their heart, they're willing to give me the money, because like the project I'm working on right now, the budget's only 700,000, less than $1 million to make, but
He said only.
Well, in the movie world, that's not a lot of money.
I know.
Yeah, that's under
That's
$1
still a
million.
lot of bread, dude.
Yeah, man,
That's a lot of bread for black
You get that
people.
money, guys. We can do a lot.
That's a lot of bread, because within black people, there might be 10, 15 people he know that would even give him something. Every other black person is like, I don't even know him.
Yeah.
To be honest, I mean, like we believe in you, Travis, just like you believe in us, right? We know you're good at what you do. You know we're good at you. We know that everybody out there, Travis is extremely talented and should never be doubted, right? And he knows the same about us. We do a lot of things, but people don't know who we are, and that makes us a risky investment. And Travis, you got a film, American Street, right?
yeah.
You have a
I-
completed film. People are looking for something like, okay, if we brought a foreigner in, say a non-black, non-white foreigner, doesn't know anything but making money, the first thing he's going to ask is, okay, what's your history? How much money have you made in the past? He's going to look at you like a stock, right? And he'll be like, oh, well, how's this stock performing? Well, it hasn't performed yet. Then that's a high risk, whatever. Then he's going to cut you a deal like, well, I want 90% of your earnings. And then we're like, hell no. Well, I'm 100% of the creative part of it. Why do you want 90% of earnings? Because you're high risk. Because you have not proven, you're proven that you're talented, but your product has not proven that it's stable and it will sell on the market. And that's what people are looking for.
You're right. Yeah,
I think that's kind of what Brian was saying as well. Now, if we came out with if we were the people who made Creed, for example, right? And then we made the second Creed. By the third Creed, even if it was just black people watching it and black people make it, by the third Creed, it would jump outside of our community, right? Solid projects, people like it, and black people go to see it. Not because they're black, because it's a good damn movie.
Yeah.
Then it would be able to get out. But we have to first, we as artists have to produce something within our own budgets. And then we have to be able to sell it to our own people. So when we go to outside of our community, we can say this will generate X amount in sales. Right?
Yeah.
Here's the numbers. Here's the history. Orlando will tell you, we've met, different groups of people, and they're like, we love what you guys do. Let me see your 5 years of your last 5 years of financials. How much have you earned in the last 5 years? Well, I have this. I've been trying to make this. That's why we decreased like the size of the projects to like albums and stuff like that, just so we can say, okay, we got 2 years of history and we have nothing but releases. Here's some comments. Here's some fans. These people, if you look at the 100 fans we have, we can guarantee you that 25 of them will give us $1. So then we tell that person, loan us $15, and we keep 10, and we pay you back in such and such, and so on. You get what I'm saying? But to come from nowhere, right, and say, I got the script, I got this album, I got this anime, I got this robot over here.
Hey, robot, he's that
You know,
robot boy.
and
I got a drone.
and a drone
No.
or an idea, unless you create, it's the same. If we said we had an invention and we didn't have a working prototype, people kind of like, But if you said, please go ahead.
No, you're absolutely right. The only thing I would say is that this conversation I had because I was working on a film last year. A friend of mine, her movie is called Bull Street. It should be, she has Loretta Devine and oh my God, I can't think of her name. Amy Madigan, who's married to I can't think of his name right now. But she was, she's been my friend Chatal. She's an actress, and she was saying, Travis, she said, this is crazy, because I don't know if you would call it classically trained, but she's trained in film, and she said most of these studios are looking for YouTube. They're looking at how many followers you have on Instagram, and they're looking at those numbers. And she was asking me, she was like, Travis, do you think I should, do that? Because she's on, she's on a lot of movies. My friend Chatal, she's, you can see her on HBO Max, you can see her on Hulu, you can see her on Netflix. She's on a lot of film and a lot of projects, but and television and network television. But she was like, I don't know, Travis, this is crazy. I don't know what, but right now, just to echo what you're saying, yeah, they are looking not more so the money, they just want to see a proof of concept and to see the number of followers you have. If you have a huge number of followers, they're going to factor that in, and they'll be more inclined to back and to fund whatever project you're doing.
Yeah, because they put money behind that mumble rap. Dude come in with his pants halfway down on backwards, in a fake gold chain, and a stupid dance, and they'll put $50,000 behind him in marketing and everything like that.
And the sad part about that, Uncle Dave, is that it'll sell. And see, that's
because they know it'll sell. That's the point.
And that's why I say I think it's over. I think it's over. I think that we didn't. I'm sorry, we didn't safeguard the best parts of our culture, and we let the lower aspects of our culture thrive. And to be fair, white people put money behind that, so that's part of the reason why too.
Listen, I would agree with you I agree with you to a point, meaning that if we had a finite set of ideas, but great thing about being African Americans, we always innovate ourselves, even though I'm not a big fan of mumble rap and stuff like that, but it's popular with a lot of people across the world. We keep on reinventing ourselves and coming out with something new. And I just think,
but new doesn't always be better.
But it's always a level lower.
It's not always better.
We didn't get better than James Brown. We got worse. When we're looking at people in the '60s, and they're like, those black people are better than we are now. They're smarter.
They are.
They're more talented. They work harder. They were able to. They stayed married longer. They got married younger. They raised bigger families. They had, with all what they went through, right? I take a James Brown artist over anybody.
I agree. I agree. The quality control has lessened, and I think that's more so. I think that's more so that everything has been.
We live in a faster culture now.
We live in the internet.
That changes things.
We live in the social media, and everyone is a critic. I mean, everyone can to critique something. Before we had people who were more qualified to critique whether or not, and at that time we had things like A&R, people who were reps who would basically nurture. Like I'm a huge fan of Prince. If Prince came out today, 9 times out of 10, they would boo him off the stage. They wouldn't. A studio would not give that. Like when he signed with Warner Brothers, they would not give him. They wouldn't give him after this first album that didn't do well, even though it was phenomenal. He did all the music, did everything himself. But they wouldn't have funded the next project. I mean, we don't nurture artists today like they did back in those days. And again, I agree with you in the quality control. We do need quality control. I just think that a lot of things being passed out as good and it's really not good. And just because it's new doesn't mean it's better.
Yeah,
I think.
No, go ahead. Oh no, I was just gonna. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. Just because it's new doesn't mean it's better. And I also think
just quality control. It's like we live in like a faster society now, so people want stuff faster. That's wonder why, like,
he wants stuff faster. I don't think that's a good.
That's not necessarily a good thing, but that's kind of the reason why, like, for example, like TikTok, like one rap, so probably one rap, you could just say some random words and get it out way quick and actually think it's lyrics. It's like, and speed is a part of it too. And nowadays, that's a part of the game. How fast you get it out. I mean, it might not be good. If you release like 100 songs compared to someone who released one good song, I mean, you're just way more than the algorithm compared to that person that released one good song.
That's a valid point.
There's a catch in there though, Caleb. And it's sad to say it, but you guys, every generation, you guys, you're not as refined. We aren't as either. Like for example, right? When we started producing music in the 90s, right? We're sampling the music off of vinyl records, right? MP3s, the quality, as far as the audio file was not there. It didn't have as much bass, treble, the volume and all that. It did not sound as good as the record did, right? But then here comes the next generation. If I raise you on MP3s and you never hear a vinyl record, this becomes the new norm. Old people complain like me, but it's like when you see, man, I watched, what was it? Not the Tom Cruise one, but the what's the alien invasion movie with the 3-fingered aliens and the War of the Worlds.
That was Tom Cruise.
We had War of the Worlds. Yeah.
I'm saying not the Tom Cruise version. I went and watched the one from the 60s.
Oh, okay. I got
the first one.
It is still on point. Yeah. It is still the acting, the shots, the angles, the rule of thirds, and all the cuts and everything. It's still beautiful, and it will last. The 10 Commandments will last forever. The movie. You see what I'm saying? But to your point, Caleb, the fast stuff we're making now, this 50 years, this will disappear. In 200 years from now, nobody's going to look back at this.
Well, you want to make money, you look on it right now. We're looking on an algorithm-based system. It's not just talent-based. The algorithm's what's going to make you money in the current system. Like this is a point in time where talent, it made you money. Now you gotta feed the algorithm, right? So it's about pump as much content as possible.
Yeah, but that's so risky, and it only makes a little bit of money, and a lot of times it hurts. That's why we're talking about Disney. Let's make something fast and put everybody in it, and everybody will like it, whatever. And what happened? Now they're losing.
Speaking of which, let's move on to that.
I was working for like the last 10 years.
This is what Uncle Dave wanted to talk
go
about.
Back now, but it's like,
go ahead.
10 years is a big part of my generation. 10 years, that makes a big difference. So it's like, yeah.
But Uncle David, since you brought that up, is a good segue to what you wanted to talk about, and that is Disney. So I'm gonna let you take it from here.
Right, and that was getting to my next point, and it's good news for us. It's good news for us because Disney has been the way they are with quality. Instead of doing I'd say the proper type of storytelling, well, you at least get to see the heroes build a little bit. That's some of the things that I've seen missing, especially in Star Wars. Like Rey comes out and she's force lightning and everything, no training, But because those stories are there, people are complaining, and we're leaving, we're unsubscribing. Right? To your point, Caleb, they made their fast money, and now they're losing that, and all the money they invested, they're gonna make their money, and now it's going down, and they don't know when it's going to stop. And all it takes is some young creative people that understand the rules with a little bit of funding. We're going to start capturing people's audiences, right? Because if you're not, I'm going to desubscribe. Brian is already, he never subscribed, right? Many people are unsubscribing because you're not providing us what we want. You found a way to make money from 2020 COVID to now, but if you make $10 million and you lose $20 million over a 15, 20-year span, you really haven't made any money. It's just a spike. But if you go below where you were before you started trying to do things fast to make money, you lose it. And history tells us that.
And the data is backing that up, because right here it says Disney Plus witnessed a drop of 2.4 million subscribers from the previous quarter. Disney Plus subscribers dropped for the first time since its launch in 2019. So he's right. I think at the end of the day, man, I don't think quality is everything, because clearly, I mean, you got Fast and Furious movies and Transformers movies. Those are popcorn movies. People are going to go see them no matter how bad they are. You know what I'm saying?
But who's going to rewatch them? Who bought the DVD? Thing too. And Caleb, your younger generation, you watch the Fast and Furious?
When I was younger, I mean, they were okay, but now I can't watch that.
Exactly.
Well, you're forgetting about another thing too, right? So when companies start going their decline, they aren't making no more good products. They just buy with the small indie ones if they'll let them. That's another thing that's happening kind of with the game industry. Like some of the bigger companies, they ain't making no good games no more. So they just buy the small indie game companies, and it's like you look at Xbox, for example, or Microsoft, or Meta. They just buy up all the smaller studios, and then they still don't make no games. And I'd be like, bro, I mean, that's kind of one thing they do. Is there's like companies making good indie games, like, yo, let's just buy them.
Also to add, there's another article that says Disney plans to cut 3% of its total global workforce in cost-saving move. $5.5 billion.
Mention that as well.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think there's something to what, but I think Disney, when it comes to Marvel and Lucasfilm, I think they're not a special case, because I'm pretty sure this has happened before in Hollywood history or something similar to it. But I think they thought something like Marvel or Lucasfilm was guaranteed money, and I think Bob Iger even said that he was like, you could just stamp Star Wars on something and it'll sell. And now he's
fast money.
He's seeing now that no, at least the Star Wars fans prefer quality over quantity. They want a good story. They want you to respect the older characters and stuff like that. But now I don't entirely agree with Uncle Dave. I don't necessarily think that there's going to be like this crop of smaller artists or whatever that's going to come up and
that's not going to happen,
and grab hold of or whatever. Maybe a larger company might grab hold of it, but
and they'll buy it. Yeah, they're going to buy out that company.
Kind of going to what Travis is saying. The money's just not there unless you're big on YouTube or Instagram or something like that. Yep. They're not doling out the money like that no more.
That's what's going to happen. Like Caleb said, some smaller companies, production companies, they'll get picked up.
Okay.
They don't necessarily get picked up, Dave, the way you think. Eventually, it's going to start off good a couple of years, but eventually, over time, they start kicking people out of the company, and eventually, that company just becomes a part of the bigger company. That's usually what happens to these smaller, especially these game studios. That's what happens. So eventually,
and then the talent leaves, and it resurfaces again. But the rule still stands: if they can't produce something that's going to be able to go into these companies' catalog and last past one generation, they're losing their investments. You think about Star Wars, right? It came out before I was born. 74.
I thought Star Wars came out in 79.
When did Star Wars come out? Look it up.
Yeah, I can look it up right here.
Episode 4. Star Wars. 77.
77, okay.
I was 2. I was born in 75. I was 2 when it came out. Then 1981, it came back. This same thing that came out in the theaters in 77, it resurfaced in like 81, 82. It went back into the movie theater, not TV. And we watched it again. We thought it was new.
It's back in theaters now, actually. Return of the Jedi. They put it in theaters for like a week, and it did really well.
You see what I'm saying?
But Disney didn't promote it. They didn't promote it. So that's what I see. That's what I say. But we got the wrong people were in high positions, like Kathleen Kennedy, and the type of people she's hiring.
Investors make a big difference nowadays.
Yeah,
investors.
Yeah, the type
If
of people
investors
she's.
are investing the right thing, and it's like, yeah, and then the minute they invest in something wrong, they get even stricter and stricter, and they're willing to invest less into like a small company. You know,
Mhm.
they're only going to keep investing in big companies, making the same mistake.
Yeah, because they think they can cookie cutter things, and that's why. Same in the music industry, man. Same in the music industry. You have your golden ages, right, of times when people were actually doing their craft right, and then
Yeah,
everything else in between is shit. Okay,
but that's because they're investors, dude.
90s hip hop. You choose the decade for the movies, Travis. We can just go down the board when it looks like when we look at things people produce, right? It's 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 got to be at a certain level if it's going to really be a good investment. That's kind of all I'm saying, right? It has to at least be at a certain level if it's going to be if it's worth the investors' money. That means it needs to be able to sell a certain amount. One good thing, and that's the difference. I also see good product sells word of mouth, right? It does need a marketing budget. I'm not saying it doesn't, but word of mouth helps. But when you have, like we did the Quantum Wasp man and what's her name? This Wasp lady and Shrinking Man. Come on, guys, help me. Brain fart.
Oh
Ant-Man.
yeah, the
Ant-Man, right?
and Lost in the
The
Quantum
word
Zone.
of mouth is working against that movie, and they're constantly putting money on the marketing budget. You go and see it, and people on their podcast don't go see it. Don't go see it. You see what I'm saying? But the good movies that people put out, even if they're small, somebody will come and say, "Look, you got to see this. You got it." It'll get its cult following. I was watching the documentary on the making of Donnie Darko, and they was like, "We didn't think that was gonna make it. We couldn't put it in the theater because it was close to September 11th when we wanted to release it." That's one of my favorite movies. Still one of my favorite movies. And they didn't expect that much out of it. Just actors with money kind of leaned in and do this like this or whatever. It didn't get the greatest
Was it
budget
an older movie?
when it come out. Like 01.
Yeah, it's older
Yeah, you
now.
got to remember back in the day, I feel like investors were a lot more willing to put their money into something that, you know,
That was the thing. They
might
didn't
be
have a
kinda
whole
risky.
bunch of investors.
Nowadays, investors aren't willing to be risky. Like, that's just
No,
simple too.
no,
Especially now with the
there's some
economy.
truth. There's some truth to what Carbon X is saying, because I watched this one YouTube channel called Viking Samurai, and he likes all the old '90s like martial arts movies, the Van Damme movies, those types of things. And he interviewed Scott Adkins. And I don't know if guys know who Scott Adkins is, but he's the guy that see what's the biggest thing that he's played in. He was in Expendables.
Gotcha.
He was in that Ninja. He was the movie just called Ninja. What else? He's
Oh, yeah, I know.
he's in the new John Wick movie. He
He's a fake
plays
ninja.
the fat guy,
The
but
karate ninja.
he's a British guy who's he's smooth with the moves. He's been in a lot of Michael Jai White movies. But anyway, he interviewed Scott Adkins, and Scott Adkins said, "Hey, back then, there was a mid-level for movies. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of those movies that went straight to VHS, or maybe had a small time in the theater, but or didn't do well in the theaters, they would get their money back through VHS." And he was like, "That market's gone now." You know what I'm saying? So I think Caleb's right. I think some of the larger studios are a little bit more stingy when it comes to maybe funding something that might be like a mid-level movie as far as the budget. Maybe not quality, but the budget.
Okay,
Yeah, go ahead,
really,
because you would know more than this. So yes, please chime in.
yeah, well, it really depends on the funding house. I mean, like A24 is funding a lot, and they did really well this past Academy Awards with everywhere, everything.
Oh, they did that
That
movie? I
film.
didn't know that.
Yeah, that's a A24 film. But
That Michelle Yeoh?
huh?
Is that the Michelle Yeoh movie when she's multi-dimensional?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
I mean, but A24, like companies like LMF. What else? I mean, there's companies who are funding. Okay, well, everything you're saying, everything everyone's been saying is correct. I agree with the quality control and everything back in the '90s. Because the '90s was the golden time for independent filmmakers like myself. You know, a lot of you know, that's when Kevin Byrne, I mean, all started coming. You know, came out at that time. I can't. Dang, I can't think of it. Oh, David Fincher. Everyone came out during the '90s. You know, from doing music videos, and you know, David Fincher started doing music videos and stuff like that. Spike Jonze was doing music videos. Started the Hughes the Hughes brothers same way. You know, yeah, the '90s was golden time. You know, and but yeah, things have changed because of the internet, and you know, now those accelerate windows, you know, it collapsed accelerate windows because at the time when a movie would, you know, it had a certain amount of time at the box office, then it got to cable and then DVD and stuff like that. But once the internet just collapsed all that, now you know, you got AV, you know, VOD and all these different ways to monetize it and streaming and stuff like that, which is crazy. But I'm saying all that to say is that I still feel that we can still curate and control. To your point, Brian, that I don't give up on Black folks and being able to control our, because we're not limited. I do feel that we have another, maybe not at the level of Michael Jackson, but we have someone as talented as Michael coming out, someone in the music industry, someone as talented in the film industry, like I feel like I am.
Here's the thing, Travis. I think those people are there.
Yeah, you gotta
The thing
back
that I
yourself,
found
man.
myself stuck in, I had money. I made American Street for $50,000, but I didn't have that. That was it. I didn't have any money to market it.
Market it, yeah.
Yeah,
You would
and
have needed
that's
like another $100,000 just to market it, probably.
yeah.
Yeah.
I needed money to get it out there, and the little places I was, which was really surprising to me, is that the places I did go and I had money to get there, they loved it. I got a lot of press off of it. They understood what I was going for. They understand that it was an ambitious film. You know, it was inspired by, you know, Chaplin the kid, and I was touching on a lot of things, so they got it. You know, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to, you know, do what I wanted to do with it. But I'm hoping with this new project, you know, I'm able to do that.
So
And as well as what, to your point, how we, you know, we work together. My goal is to make that America Street into a series. So
Smart.
you know, so the great thing about it is that, you know, knock on wood, you know, I have, you know, some people at, you know, at Netflix who have the power to greenlight, who are interested in it, and I'm gonna need people like yourselves to be able to help me with that.
Oh hell yeah, yeah. Just give us
Because
the
I
call.
mean,
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
you know, they
Welcome
got,
on a robot.
huh?
Joking.
Him and his robot, I swear.
I'm joking, man. Death
No.
machine.
Yeah, that can be like an evil scientist in your next movie.
Yeah, if
I
you need
mean-
an evil scientist, man, that's me now.
I mean, because right now we got two series that are being shot here in Charleston. You know, we got the Pate brothers are doing the Outerbanks, and we, you know, and I remember when they first started, they came out of Charleston. They did Shallow Grave, and that was their first film. But you know, the Pate brothers, they, you know, that we started at the same time, but you know, unfortunately, that, you know, the great thing what we were talking about earlier is that the Pate brothers, they had access to people, you know, family, and not just family, but people who had deep pockets to fund their films, and they were able to go further. And we literally started at the same time.
I'm also. Well, see, here's the thing, Travis, because I've heard of the Outer Banks. I never knew what it was. You know what I'm noticing? There's a lot of white people on it. The lead is white. I mean, it looks like a white male.
Yeah,
I got some black
well,
people
I
in there.
mean,
I didn't know it was filmed here. That's crazy.
Yeah. that's shot here, as well as David Gordon Green's series. With
Travis.
HBO. But I
Hey,
mean,
yo, Travis, you paused for a second. What did you say?
Huh?
You paused for a second. We didn't hear what you said.
Yeah.
You said something about HBO.
Yeah, with David Gordon Green's the Righteous Gemstones that with HBO being shot here. But they all live here. They're doing their thing. But my goal is to tell our story, and I feel that using America Street, this being the for lack of a better term, our Ellis Island for most of the African Americans that came who were enslaved in America came through the port of Charleston.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted that's what I've been pitching to what I pitched to them. I said, listen, we want to tell our Genesis story in our country, and not just be limited to that, because I don't want to just tell a slave story. It's not a slave story. It's something that's I feel that is gonna speak to everything that we're doing. Just like what Charleston is so important, and not just Charleston, but South Carolina. And I want to be able to touch on what's the Forrest Whitaker, the Harlem.
Oh,
Godfather
of Harlem, yeah.
Godfather Harlem. I mean, the character he's playing. Yeah, the character he's playing.
Yeah, he's from Charleston. He's from Charleston, yeah.
Yeah. Bumpy is from Charleston. Yeah. So, and that's the reason why he's, I mean, they try to put Geechee and all that stuff in there, but and the new film I'm working on right now is talking about it's about the Geechee Gullah. It's a fantasy fable type of thing, but it's a love story, and I'm hoping that it'll touch a lot of people, and is drenched and is in our culture. It's about our culture, and hopefully it'll translate well, and we'll be able to get that series and be able to have a stream of revenue to hit the talented people that we have here in the city. I feel that we have I remember going to Atlanta all the time when they were starting So Death, and they broke, did everything they were doing in the 90s. And I feel like Charleston has the same opportunity to do the same thing. Yeah, so that's the goal. I mean, so don't give up, man. Don't give up on us, man, because I'm serious, man.
It's not something
we're on the brink.
I don't think it's a matter of me giving up on black people. I think black people in general have given up on blackness, and I don't think it's explicit. Like, I don't think it's a bunch of black people. Oh, screw the black community. I just think there's so many environmental pressures to push people in that direction after integration that I think that it's inevitable. You see what I'm saying? Unless the only thing I think that could save it is like hardcore militarization of the community, where you don't give people a lot of options, and that's never going to happen in this environment. I mean, the Black Panthers, they didn't do that exactly, but they were about as close to militarizing the community as you're probably going to get, and they ultimately failed. I mean,
it was not. No. See, and that's the misconception that people got it with the Black Panthers. No, the Black Panthers was not about military. It was all about self-defense and protecting the community.
No, that's
all about.
Well, that's military.
I
mean, they had uniform. They brought order. They brought structures. I mean, that's what I mean. It's not like, hey, we're gonna go get these nuclear bombs and we're gonna go attack somebody.
No. I think the core of the movement, the Panther movement, was for healthcare, food, education. That was the core.
Guns.
I mean, in the 10-point plan. I mean, that was the core of the Panther movement. That's don't ask me to recite it now. but like I said, that was the core of the 10-point plan. So I mean, I feel that nowadays, I mean, I feel that I agree with what you're saying, that everything has been diluted, and everything is it's no value, or you we don't have any the thing of it is that we don't have any institutions
Mhm.
to that we can call them. We don't own anything like schools or hospitals or banks. We do own a few banks, but things that could really, like the Jewish community. The Jewish community have all of that. So that's the reason why they are able to consolidate this wealth and do what you want. But we have to build those things. We really have to build that thing. I
But
mean,
that's the
I
thing
was
though.
just on a
We built it.
We had to build those things again.
Yeah, we had it. We had it. But
And then you have to convince people, even though it does not have, this grocery store does not have all the stuff as Whole Foods, it's better that you come here. And I'm going to Whole Foods.
Yeah.
But I don't think that we're gonna. It's people like you, Travis, will make it, right? If you a good product could sell on the market, man. Period. It's still Japanese rappers rapping 90s hip hop style. They can't get away from it. They got their mumble rap too, but they kept that part. If you continue to do what you do in excellence, Travis, you
I agree with
individually,
that.
you
Yeah.
and the people around you
Yeah.
will have something. All of us who work in that way, that's why it's kind of like, even as a people, it's kind of being a divide. Okay, you want to stand up on the table and twerk and stuff. I can't put myself at risk for that. Somebody put their hands on it they shouldn't have. Okay, that's what I'm gonna fight for. But if you were twerking on the table and they snatch your ass down, okay, no. People are fighting for that type of right, and it's really distracting us from being able to move to a next level where
they're also funding the woman who will go to the black restaurant and twerk on the table. And that's kind of what to Travis's point as far as, because I agree. I think, Travis, you keep going, you're going to get, I think, what you're looking for. You personally, but black people, it's over. It's a wrap, dude. Yeah. It's a wrap. It's over.
Well, I know.
In this country, I should say.
You can call me delusional. I still have a romantic. Or a romantic. I still believe that black people can do that.
They can.
Bro.
But it's the requirement.
You gotta wake up, man.
It's kind of like we could move into the hood in New York, and black people there, that could be a great place, right? But the things that people don't do, especially in a lot of bad areas, okay, don't shoot the other black person over here. Oh, you fucking murdered them. Don't piss on the wall, you pissed on it. Don't rob somebody, you robbed them.
Yeah.
Right? So anybody that can do something to help that community, please.
Like what's his name? Was it Deion Sanders?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. They robbed him, ripped him off.
Let me tell you this. I don't know if you heard. Okay. They came up with the list, the top 10 the best places to live and stuff like that. Charleston, excuse me, not Charleston, but South Carolina is 42 out of the 50 states. We're close to the bottom like always. And crime, we're in the top, and the crime, we're the top 10. Another thing is that they're about to in North Charleston, they just about to invest $2 or $3 billion in the city of North Charleston. They're going to renovate the whole place. Is going to look different. Okay.
Yeah, because they're going to push all black people out.
Well, the thing of it is, I'll talk to you off camera more about that.
All right.
But the thing of it is that there is funds, there is money, and we're trying to make sure that our community, gets a portion of that, so we can do what we need to do. So. Like I said, please don't give up hope on what we can do.
That's the thing, Travis. It's not about me giving up. Like for me personally, I want to see that future where the black community is thriving. But this is a bitter truth that I've had to accept over the last 3 or 4 years. The more I learn, and that is there is no black community. There really isn't. Communities are made up by institutions, and the foundational institution is the family. And once after the '60s, once the black family kind of died and perished, it's over. Like what you can't build without without families. You just can't do it. You can't do it. And if another half of our so-called community is adverse to that, I just don't see any way forward. I just don't. So it's not me. Like I want to see that. I don't see that as a reality because of what I see around me. You know what I'm saying? And so I think in that sense, I think it's over. I think there's always going to be black people here, but what we call the African American community, I think a large part is going to get assimilated, and a lot of us are going to die off. I mean, look, only 33% of black men are married. Only 27% of black women are married. Only like 54% of black men don't even have children. They don't even have children. So so that even with all the stuff that they push in media, like how we create a bunch of baby mamas. There's a certain segment of black men that do that, and there's a certain segment of black women that like those types of men. But for the most part, we don't even have children. You cannot have a community without families. You just can't. That's why I say it's over. Yeah, I think it's over. I think
when the larger issues show like population decline, us getting our artistic projects off the ground are subject to the larger issues. I mean, like he's saying, generational wealth. Us living in the same area in nice houses.
We couldn't even come together to get reparations to get the money. At least get the money. At least get the money. We couldn't even agree on that. You know what I'm saying? We have pushback on that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, everything you just outlined. I mean, should be their own separate podcast from
you're right.
Relationships.
Here's the subject for next week.
Yeah, black love and reparations. Those each need to be their own separate podcast. But I agree with you. But the thing of it is that I still feel that they're just not being taught. They're not being educated. They're not being educated. And I think right now, I don't know if you heard of the artist Shuggy Otis.
Yeah, Shuggy. I listen to him all the time. Yeah.
Who's
half white, by the way.
Yeah, his Information Inspiration album. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think right now a lot of us are being bombarded with a whole bunch of information, but we can't see a reflection of ourselves in that information, so we don't get inspiration from it. And I just think right now we're in this technological area where everyone's detached. They don't know how. I mean, when I talk about black guys, there's a lot of black males, but not a lot of black men that I've come across.
yeah.
And a lot of women. I just think a lot of the black women that nowadays they lost mystery. A woman without mystery is nothing. I hear you. A woman has to have some sort of mystery about her, because that's like that saying goes: once you bring it to the mind, it leaves the heart. Once you already figured it out, you no longer care for it. So I just think that right now we got to get back to the fundamentals. But I agree with you. I totally agree with you on that aspect. But
moving on, because Orlando hasn't really had it. Go ahead.
You need to have a panel with that with you fellas with women and talk about that. And talk about how relationship.
We have another channel. We haven't really posted anything on there. We would have to do it. This channel, we try not to get that much into that. We're doing it now because it ties in with movies and stuff like that. So if we would have a topic just on reparations or just on black love, we would do it on that other channel. But I did want to move on to what Orlando wanted to talk about, because it is a black movie that's being directed, I think, by Michael Jai White, right? And this movie was supposed to come out like a while ago, right? He even had
I believe so.
He even had I think a Kickstarter campaign. I contributed to it. I got my little Outlaw Josie Wells. No, not Josie Wells. What's the character's name?
Josie Wells.
What's the guy's character's name? For some reason, this thing ain't loading in the title. But we're about to watch the trailer. Oh, Outlaw Johnny Black.
Mm.
And
this is Orlando's thing.
yeah, he wanted to talk about this
Yeah,
because I guess they're finally about to release the movie because
Hey, Dimitri should have been here too, man. This would have been something for him.
yeah, I think he would have liked this. But I wanted to go ahead and move on to this because it kind of ties into what we were saying. Michael Jai White, I don't think he's like an A-list actor anymore. He's probably more on the B-list. But for years he's been trying to get funding. Well, I think when he was Spawn, played Spawn or whatever, he's at that time he was probably sought after or whatever. But for years he's been trying to get funding to finish this movie, to do this movie, to the point where he did a Kickstarter. I think he went on Tariq Nasheed's show to try to drum up some support and stuff like that. And I don't think the Kickstarter even reached its goals, even though I did get my T-shirt. But it goes to your point, Travis. I think that the hurdles I think are greater when it comes to black creatives in Hollywood. And I don't think it's something we've quite figured out, but I think it ties back to integration and us losing our institutions. You know what I'm saying? All those blaxploitation films, that pretty much saved Hollywood. A black institution didn't rise out of that. A black studio that I know and if a black studio did rise out of that, does it still exist? That one movie. What's that one movie called? It was an independent movie, and I first learned about it by Charlemagne's mentor is a guy named Professor. DJ Bless's dad, Professor. He told me about a movie called The Spook Who Sat by the Door.
Yeah.
That was all. Wasn't it all guerrilla? It was just filmed guerrilla style, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to watch the documentary on how that was made by the guy that made it. He'll tell you about that struggle. Man.
Great film.
Yeah, Greenlee is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But there's no legacy for that. Yeah, Caleb, have you ever heard of Spook Who Sat by the Door?
No.
How old are you, Caleb?
No, I'm 22.
You see what I fucking mean? Do you see what I mean? Do you see what I mean, Travis? Do you see what I mean? Now, my parents had never heard about it. I had to hear about it from a doctor from New York, who's half white, by the way. But he had a black dad who was, even though he had a white wife, was still pretty pro-black. You know what I'm saying? And I hear from a doctor from New York. You know what I'm saying? Who moved down here to South Carolina, whose son is a DJ. I had to learn from him. We don't have institutions to pass these types of things down. It's a great movie. It's a great black movie. I didn't hear about it until I was a damn near grown man. I think I was a grown man. I was like 19, 20 years old when he told me about it.
I was in my 30s.
Yeah, Uncle David was in his 30s,
I was in my 30s, for sure.
Yeah. So
never heard of that.
That's kind of what I mean. It's like, and I know it's, and I don't want to be too harsh on black people in Hollywood because, they are clients. They're gig workers. They're trying to get money from this system. They don't have the money to set up these institutions. They don't have that type of. Now, someone like Tyler Perry does, but we see the type of content he makes. You know what I'm saying? He's busy selling his studios to Hispanic people. No, I have nothing against Hispanic people, but this is my point, though. It's my point is that we don't cultivate our own even when we get it, and then in the case of Deion Sanders, when he is in an institution, a black institution where he can make a difference, we got to be honest about this, guys. At the end of the day, they couldn't pay him what he was worth. They couldn't. I mean, what it really comes down to.
Somebody could, and he is all right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. And one can make an argument, well, black men should sacrifice this. But I mean, we've done all. Black men have done so much sacrifices. I mean, people forget that thousands of black men fought in the Civil War and died to help preserve the Union.
Man, we got to play Orlando's video.
Okay,
man.
all right, yeah, let's play it. All right.
I want to see this, and it better be good.
I thought you had seen it.
Orlando.
From the brothers who brought you Black Dynamite comes a brand new movie that's show out of sight. We've been gone for a while, but now we're back with a Western adventure. The Outlaw, Johnny Black. It's a rootin', tootin', six-gun shooting, romance and praise dance, cliff jumping, horse punching, card dealing, land stealing, unruly and truly groovy kind of movie. Put me down! He made Billy a key, took the eye from one-eyed Jack. He's a high plains drift. Ain't nobody swift than the outlaw, Johnny Black.
Oh yeah, that's going to be just fine.
Kung fu action, romantic comedy,
And I'm
dramas
going to see
go. It's right up there with the rest of them.
Now, what did he say? Did he say it was going to be released in theaters or was it going to be streaming? I couldn't tell. I thought he said something at the end about it.
Shoot, I don't even know, man.
I'd stream it.
It says a Samuel Goldwyn film will release the Outlaw Johnny Black. No, it is. It'll be exclusively in theaters on September 15th. This movie's been in production for years, man. Because I remember it was like 3 or 4 years ago when he first mentioned it. It's so old now that the shirt that I got from it, because I've washed it and dried it, like, started to get worn out or whatever. So, but anyway, Orlando, since this is your thing, I'll let you kind of speak on it. Yeah.
Speak, master, speak.
Shoot, man. I really got much to speak on to it. It just my eye on it, man. It's just, I don't know. I just thought about Dimitri, man. Really, I was like, you know what? This would be a movie, man. He would like. And even seeing some of the clips and stuff, it just caught my attention, man. Like a different take on a western, At first, I was thinking about what's the Django, stuff like that. No, but then of course, it's a whole different vibe if you with it, So I think it'd be pretty interesting because I've seen like the Dolomite things and stuff like that, and also it'd be interesting to see how they carry on with this right here, So.
And to be fair, this isn't a sequel to Black Dynamite. It's brought by the same people who did Black Dynamite. So it's a different character, but it's same type of vibe. I think it's just it's a western instead of like a blaxploitation 70s. Yeah. So I've been waiting for this for years.
Different scenes, so it just.
You know what I'm most interested in? I'm most interested in what a young person, a Gen Z guy like Carbon X. What did you think of that trailer? I'm curious. I'm just curious. I want to know.
Is he still on?
Yeah. I want to see.
Is he awake?
What did you think of that trailer?
It was okay. I mean, to me, it wasn't anything special. It was okay.
Yeah. This is why I say it's over. It's over, Travis.
It's not like she was really like, I gotta watch it. It's
like some of the stuff that Carbon thinks is funny or interesting, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, what? Now it might be, all generations I guess do that, but I don't care. When I was younger, right, and my mom played someone like James Brown or Otis Redding or something, I could still get into it. You know what I'm saying? And some of the stuff that we did, like the new Jack Wave, like the Bobby Brown and New Edition, all those guys, our parents could get into that stuff. But this stuff that you guys are interested in now, Caleb, I just cannot get into it.
Give me a record deal. Come on, I got it. It ain't got a rhyme.
You can have a trap beat, bro. You gotta have that beat. You don't
lifestyle.
All right. Travis wants to say something. Let Travis.
Go ahead, Travis. Do your thing.
No. I was going to say that.
I'm about to show you how to mumble properly, Dave.
Oh! Caleb's gonna bust a freestyle, y'all.
Hey, let Travis say.
Get him.
Wait, what?
Travis was going to say something. I want to hear what he was going to say.
Oh no! No. All I was going to say is that I just think it's he didn't. It was okay to him because he didn't pick up all the references. His film filmology is, he didn't grow up watching blaxploitation films, so he wouldn't be able to pick up all the references that's going on in the film. And or I don't know if you've seen any like Mel Brooks films. Have you seen any Mel Brooks films like History of the World Part 1?
I don't know who that is. What the?
I don't know.
Do you see now why I say it? You see now why I say it's over, Travis?
There's a generation gap, definitely. Yeah.
No, that's just a generation gap. We don't pass down what I consider our best stuff.
Yeah, you don't tell us what movies to watch. Yeah, that's like
No, not just not.
You don't tell us, and we'll make our own stuff.
It's not about telling you what movies to watch.
What TikTok is. I mean, it's like
No, it's not about telling you what movies to watch. It's okay, if these types of things aren't being passed down in the Black community, And the only
You
thing
talking
that's
about just showing you as like a child, so it kind of becomes ingrained with you. That's what you mean by that, right?
well, not just that, but it's also it's black people aren't solidified. We're not unified. We don't have a shared culture anymore. So we don't always pass down the same things. And the things that are getting funded a lot of times are like the basis or the worst of our culture. The most ghetto aspects of our culture are getting funded a lot of times. Not all the times, but a lot of times that's the part that's getting funded. So when I asked a Gen Z person like you, like, what did you think of that? Like, I was born in the '80s, early '80s, right? So I didn't grow up watching blaxploitation films, but I watched movies that were calling back to that era. So I got to learn about it. I heard my parents talking about those movies, right? You know what I'm saying? And I got to see images of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's right.
whereas
You jive ass turkey.
yeah, whereas your generation, because of integration, and I think a lot of times black parents, even my parents to an extent,
It's not just integration.
they don't well they don't
You can just look at anything.
they don't push black culture on their kids as much anymore. A lot of things I now my parents did a little bit of it, but a lot of things I learned about black history and stuff, I get some of it I got from rap music. When
I
rap
got
music
most of mine from rap.
when rap music was actually somewhat conscious and not all the mumble rap crap. Now there was there was commercial stuff back then too, but there was a consciousness to it. Now it's just I don't even know how to describe it. It's just garbage. It's just garbage. Not to say that there aren't some good stuff now, but that good stuff isn't like the most popular stuff. It just isn't. But anyway, I was curious to see what you thought about it. Okay, just to kind of prove my point too. Like, it's over. it's over, man. It's
I
over.
mean, I could have told you it's over. I've been trying to say that for who knows how long, bro. It's over, and there's nothing you can do to save it at this point.
There's things you could do,
over.
but I don't. It would be.
There's not a whole lot of things you can do, Ryan.
It'd be difficult.
There's not a whole lot of things you can do because you got to convince a group of people, and it's really hard to convince this group of people, especially nowadays. So nothing's changing.
Yeah, I agree.
Nothing is changing.
I was on to get out of here soon.
All right. Okay. Well, I mean, we can wrap. We've covered all the topics, but since Travis is our guest, I was going to kind of give him the last word and talk about whatever new projects that he's working on that he might want to reveal. And just generally, your thoughts, Travis.
Oh, again, thank you for allowing me to be a part. I love what you're doing. I watch. I don't think that that's the podcast is not being watched because I definitely watch it. I think it's very informative. And
nice. Means you got to come back next week.
You're welcome anytime, Travis. You're welcome anytime. I'll send you the link.
I appreciate it. The only right now what I'm working on is the Rose Boys, and hopefully, right now we're still working on the script, making sure the third act needs to be a little strong.
If I Google it, will anything come up?
No, not
okay,
not at all.
So what do we get to plug for you, Travis, before we go?
What you can
something?
plug.
What's coming up? What's coming up for you?
I just did some stuff for the Preservation Society of Charleston, the Black Oral History. You can definitely plug that. And I also did a little bit for the Avery Center also. But if you go to the Preservation, there it is. That's it. Oh no. Right there, but what we're doing is I've been filming with the Preservation Society, interviewing people who own Black businesses in Charleston when Charleston used to be Black. So definitely
used to be.
that.
That's an important word. So some of your content on this page here. Media coverage?
I shot the interviews for it. So definitely it's you went past it.
Okay, so I had to go down.
Go back up all the way to the top. Go down to these lists.
I see advocacy alerts, media coverage, press releases, career opportunities.
I think that media coverage. Oh no, go to preservation. I'm sorry.
Yeah, videos. Learn more about historic black-owned business.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It'll go. But yeah, you can go to the interactive website and stuff like that. So
okay.
Yeah, we're trying to curate and make sure that the youngins don't know the history. So there it is.
All right. Okay. All right. So if no one else has any here we go. If no one else has any last words, we'll wrap it up here because I'm pretty sure we went over an hour, but we had some interesting conversation. I have to say that.
Yeah.
But with that,
definitely a lot of material.
thank you. Can I use you want me to use your real name? I wasn't sure. I know I kept saying it, so but Avidya.
Oh yeah, it's Avidya. Avidya. It's just Sanskrit for the ignorance.
Okay, all right. So
Jedi Brian, you're ignorant.
Thank you, Avidya.
Thanks, yeah. Thanks.
Carbon X.
It's good to see you, brother.
All right, it's good to see you.
DJ Dave Darko.
You gotta come by see the robot, man.
King 81.
I will.
Thank you all, and
Yes,
we'll see you next Friday.
Lucent Studio.